starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 51, Extraordinary Existence. Zhou Hao swept his eyes over the virtual screen, and saw that the luck points now read, 757,400. As expected of a powerful existence among high-level demon kings, this seven-tailed cloud mink directly contributed 200,000 luck points. Looking at the number on the luck points, Zhou Hao was extremely excited. Now that he already had 750,000 points, he was close to reaching 100,000 luck points. Soon, he would be able to open the silver mystery box again. He was very excited to obtain the items in the silver mystery box. Whether it was the top-level cultivation technique 9 revolutions golden body technique, sky-splitting divine technique, or the black tortoise divine turtle armor, they were all top-notch in his eyes. If he could draw any one of them, his strength would experience a qualitative leap. After sorting out his emotions, he first put the seven-tailed cloud mink's corpse away. Then, he turned around and walked towards Commander Zhao and the others. These Grand Masters clearly knew that they were no match for the seven-tailed cloud mink, but they still fought without fear of death. Such conduct really made Zhou Hao admire them. Zhou Hao felt that he wouldn't have been able to do the same if he were in their shoes. However, when he arrived, he noticed that Commander Zhao and the others were looking at him strangely. Senior Zhou, did you break through and become even stronger than a peak-level Grandmaster? Commander Zhao could not help but ask. The other Grandmasters stared at Zhou Hao. Beyond the Grandmaster level was the supernatural level. It could be said that once one stepped into the supernatural level, they would shed their mortal body and surpass the limit. They would have all kinds of inconceivable divine abilities. It was precisely because humans on planet Earth had such an invincible existence that they were able to preserve their homes against the crazy invasion of the foreign races. After being stunned for a moment, Zhou Hao couldn't help but laugh. He shook his head and said, "Commander Zhao, I haven't broken through to the supernatural level. The main reason why I was able to kill the seven-tailed cloud mink was because of a unique saber technique." Saber technique. Commander Zhao, Zhenhong, and the other Grandmasters were stunned. However, they quickly recalled the shocking saber move. Zhenhong subconsciously thought of the saber technique executed by the peerless genius he had seen in school. When he compared the two, he actually felt that they were somewhat similar. Back then, the peerless genius had also relied on his saber to forcefully suppress and kill 3 high-level demon generals. The Grandmasters knew that the same technique would indeed also allow Senior Zhou to kill the seven-tailed cloud mink. After all, in this world, cultivation level did not mean everything. Secret techniques and combat techniques were sometimes more important. Thinking of this, Zhenhongan couldn't help but ask, Senior Zhou, do you know a genius student from Chu City High School? The saber technique that student used is similar to yours. It's also extremely powerful. Zhou Hao's heart skipped a beat. He had been so focused on killing the seven-tailed cloud mink that he had forgotten to disguise his saber technique. Chu City High School. He pretended to be puzzled. I've never been there. If I have the time, I would be very interested to meet the student. This saber technique of mine depends entirely on comprehension. It was transformed from the shadow saber stance, so it's not impossible for others to figure it out. Shadow saber stance. Indeed, no matter how I looked at the saber technique back then, I still found it a little familiar. So it turned out that it was really derived from the shadow saber stance. Commander Zhao looked at Zhou Hao and couldn't help but say, Senior Zhou is really impressive. You were able to create such a powerful technique from an ordinary saber technique. Zhou Hao hurriedly waved his hand and said casually, it's nothing. I'm just trying my best. Zhenhong and the other Grandmasters were speechless when they heard this. All of them had diligently researched martial techniques and secret techniques for many years, but none of them had figured out anything. Soon, they heard Zhou Hao say, Commander Zhao, the foreign races are currently rampant. If that student really manages to figure out a saber technique similar to mine, you have to ensure his safety by keeping him hidden, lest he suffers from the crazy assassination of the foreign races. Commander Zhao immediately said solemnly, Senior Zhou, don't worry about that. We will definitely protect Chu City High School and the safety of that student. The other Grandmasters nodded seriously. Seeing that he had successfully changed the topic, Zhou Hao couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He went forward and looked at He Biao. How are your injuries? Cough cough. Thank you, Senior Zhou, for saving my life. He Biao stammered. Every Grandmaster had a tenacious life force. No matter how serious their injuries were, they could quickly recover. Zhou Hao relaxed. Those shadow insects are really cunning. They actually took advantage of your situation and chose to attack when you were surrounded. Looks like we have to get rid of them. Otherwise, there will be no end of trouble. Commander Zhao chimed in, that's right. The shadow insects are like a time bomb. Because of them, not only does the city have to be constantly guarded, but even the teams that usually come to the wilderness to hunt have to be vigilant. With them around, the teams won't be able to clean up the other demon beasts and insects in peace. Zhenhong also said, Senior Zhou, Commander Zhao, now that the seven-tailed cloud mink is dead, the other demon kings are no longer a threat. I suggest that after resting and recovering from my injuries, we continue the cleanup operation and completely eliminate the shadow insects. Agreed. Seconded. The other Grandmasters nodded. After experiencing the despair just now, they became even more aware of the threat of the shadow insects. Commander Zhao stood up. All right, let's rest for half an hour and continue as planned. After the seven-tailed cloud mink was killed by Zhou Hao, the remaining danger zones basically only had intermediate-level demon kings. A Grandmaster on his own might be endangered, but since they traveled in pairs, they would not be in any danger when facing intermediate-level demon kings. Therefore, half an hour later, Commander Zhao and the other Grandmasters, who had recovered from their injuries, increased their speed in searching for the shadow insects. Zhou Hao originally wanted to continue killing the other demon kings to accumulate luck points. However, he soon discovered that there was not a single king-level demon beast left on the 30+ red areas on the map. Chapter 52, New Use of Luck Points. Where's all the demon beasts? Where's the insect beasts? After storming all the red regions, Zhou Hao was stunned. He hurriedly informed Commander Zhao and the others through the wireless channel. Commander Zhao smiled and said, Senior Zhou, you might not know this, but once a high-level demon king dies in the wilderness outside a city, the demon kings in the other regions will sense its death and will evacuate their area one after another. Those demon kings must have sensed the death of the seven-tailed cloud mink as they were traveling towards it and fled in panic. Zhou Hao immediately came to a realization and said speechlessly, these demon kings are too cowardly. Zhenhong's laughter sounded from the wireless channel. Senior Zhou, it's mainly because you're so valiant. The other demon kings must be scared out of their wits after finding out that the seven-tailed cloud mink died so quickly. That's right. King-level demon beasts are all intelligent beings and not inferior to humans. They are even more sensitive to danger. If even a powerful existence like the seven-tailed cloud mink was killed so quickly, how could they not escape? He Biao's voice also sounded. Zhou Hao said helplessly, all right, I was thinking of killing some more demon kings. He Biao flattered, Senior Zhou, it's rather difficult for other peak-level grandmasters to kill even a single demon king. Moreover, they have to be very careful when they're facing one, yet you're complaining that the demon kings are escaping too quickly. The other grandmasters' voices also sounded. As they chatted, the topic moved to the seven-tailed cloud mink's corpse. It was as if a hornet's nest had been poked. The group of grandmasters immediately fell into a heated argument. Even Commander Zhao could not help but ask for the corpse materials. After all, This was a high-level Demon King corpse and its material was very precious. The speechless Zhou Hao could only temporarily turn off the wireless channel. Standing in the flourishing ancient forest, he frowned. The Demon Kings and King-level insect beasts had all fled, leaving only some demon generals behind. Zhou Hao didn't care about them because the luck points accumulation speed would be too slow. Forget it, I'll find the shadow insects first. Shaking his head, he sighed. As he walked around the wilderness area, the horizon began to glow, but Zhou Hao did not notice a single shadow insect. These shadow insects are too difficult to sense. Zhou Hao was somewhat annoyed. His blood essence was mellow and his sensing ability far surpassed that of Commander Zhao, He Biao, and the other Grandmasters. However, even so, he still did not discover any traces of them. He opened the wireless channel and asked Commander Zhao and the others about the situation. All of them shook their heads. It's almost dawn. The shadow insects are even harder to discover during the day. Let's continue at night. Commander Zhao suggested. If the shadow insects were so easily discovered, they would have long been cleaned up by humans. Therefore, Commander Zhao was already mentally prepared when he proposed the cleanup operation. You guys go back first. I'll keep looking. Zhou Hao was unwilling to give up. After all, he felt that the life stone would be extremely beneficial to his father's health. The sky gradually turned bright. The stars retreated and Zhou Hao searched on for a bit longer, but he still found nothing. Sitting on a 100-meter tall ancient tree branch, he killed a python and pondered with a frown. However, after thinking for a while, he still did not have any clues. Forget it, I can't be impatient. I'll continue tomorrow. He still had classes in the morning and could not stay in the wilderness. On the way back to the city, he habitually opened the virtual screen. Seeing the 750,000 luck points on the screen made him feel much better. Wait, how could I have forgotten my luck points? He suddenly stopped in his tracks and stared at the virtual screen. Luck points could increase one's luck. And luck played a role in finding the shadow insects. I'll give it a try and see if it works. After his experience with the mystery boxes, he became very confident in the power of his luck points. However, he knew that the luck points were consumed relatively quickly, so he rarely used it for any purposes other than opening boxes. I'll spend 100 first. With the thought, the number of luck points decreased by 100. He immediately returned to the wilderness area and began to search. 10 minutes later, nothing happened. After hesitating for a moment, Zhou Hao simply continued to spend 100 luck points per minute. I'll just do this for half an hour more. By then, regardless of whether I find anything, I'll return to the city. As he pondered, he increased his speed. As his luck points continued to be consumed, he searched everywhere like a headless fly as he unknowingly headed towards Area 275. Soon, more than 20 minutes passed. Zhou Hao stood at the edge of Area 275, looking slightly stunned. How did I end up here, he muttered to himself. District 275 was a relatively large mass grave. A huge battle had happened here more than a decade ago. Large numbers of demon beast, insect, and beast bones were buried underground, as well as the corpses of human martial artists. However, now that it had become a huge pit, the bones were covered by a large number of weeds. Could the shadow insects be hidden here? A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. After careful thought, he realized that it was indeed possible. Back then, after the war, countless demon beasts and insect beasts had died, causing the area to have chaotic energy. No other demon beasts or insects had come here for more than a decade, and human experts rarely stepped foot here because the chaotic energy would interrupt their senses. The stronger one was, the more reliant on their aura senses. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao did not hesitate. He took a step and arrived at the center of a huge pit. He did not use his blood essence to sense his surroundings and instead directly bombarded the ground. Chapter 53, Focused Training Class. Bang. 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 Under the powerful force, the ground exploded continuously. Buzz. Suddenly, an ear-piercing sharp sound surged over. The defense of the black tortoise set on Zhou Hao's body automatically weakened, but Zhou Hao's face revealed excitement. Haha, they really are hiding here. With a laugh, he increased the frequency of his attacks. Swoosh. 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 Immediately, shadow insects rushed out of the ground and besieged Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao immediately took out his saber and crazily destroyed these shadow insects. Pu. 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 The shadow insects were originally relatively weak. Facing Zhou Hao, they did not have the slightest strength to resist and could only flee frantically. Their speed was fast. Zhou Hao was not distracted and easily caught up to the shadow insects. The saber in his hand slashed out mercilessly, and more than 10 shadow insects fell and twitched. In less than half a minute, Zhou Hao had killed more than 100 shadow insects. However, the shadow insects were also very smart and escaped in all directions, causing Zhou Hao to only be able to chase after some of them. Haha, go ahead and run. I want to see where you guys can escape to. He sneered in his heart. He fully understood that the reason why he was able to find the hiding spot of the shadow insects this time was because of his luck points. Therefore, he did not care at all about the escaping shadow insects. After throwing the shadow insects' corpses into the spatial bag, Zhou Hao returned to the base in a good mood. With so many shadow insects killed, he was definitely going to get first place in this cleanup operation. With the help of the life stone, Dad and Mom's health can be improved. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao quickened his pace. At Chu City High School. As the somewhat blinding morning light shone on the school, the sound of the school bell spread to every corner of the school. The crisp ringtone seemed to have dispelled the grief brought about by the foreign race's attack a few days ago, and gradually, more and more laughter started sounding in every class. After Zhou Hao returned home and hurriedly took a shower. Then, he rushed to school and happened to walk into the classroom when the bell was still ringing. Just as he sat down, the homeroom teacher appeared at the classroom door. I have something to announce. Due to the emergence of a peerless genius in our school, the leaders of the Education Bureau and Instructor Shen have decided to specially set up a focused training class for the Year 3 students after some careful consideration. In the future, the students of this training class will enjoy many favorable conditions such as an increase in resources. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an uproar in the classroom. Soon, a student shouted impatiently, "Teacher, may I ask how to enter this training class?" The homeroom teacher pressed his palms together and continued, "As long as you're a student who participated in the previous combat assessment and had killed a mutated beast, you can directly enter the training class. The others who did not participate in the combat assessment can also sign up if they have reached the second level of blood essence." After saying that, the homeroom teacher turned to leave, and the students in the class exploded into an uproar. "Ah, I can't believe I could enter directly if I had joined the combat assessment. I regret it so much. Didn't they say that those who have reached the second level of blood essence can sign up too? We still have a chance. Even if you sign up, you still might not necessarily be accepted." Many students pounded their chests in regret. During the combat assessment last time, many students who had reached the first level of blood essence or even the second level of blood essence had not signed up to participate because they were worried about their own safety. Originally, when they heard that the school was attacked by the foreign races during the combat assessment, they were secretly feeling glad that they did not participate. But now that the focused training class had been announced, they were all in a daze. Everyone knew that the focused training class this time would have a big impact on their future. Moreover, the person in charge of the focused training class was likely to be a high-level grandmaster, Instructor Shen. Therefore, it was not only Zhou Hao's class 4 that reacted this way. The students in the other classes were also in grief. Zhou Hao, that lucky dog. He sure lucked out this time. That's right. That's a focused training class. Furthermore, it was even organized by the leaders of the Education Bureau. With all the cultivation resources they're providing for the class, even a pig will have the chance to break through to become a martial artist. Many students in the class looked at Zhou Hao with envy. Su Ling couldn't help but turn around. Zhou Hao, you have to seize this opportunity and work hard. Zhou Hao shrugged. Got it? The other students thought highly of the focused training class, but he did not care. In terms of strength, he could easily crush Instructor Shen. In terms of resources, the seven-tailed cloud mink in his spatial bag was enough to exchange for countless cultivation pills. Seeing Zhou Hao's lazy and careless appearance, Su Ling said angrily, I can't be bothered with you. Su Ling's old desk mate, Li Yun, secretly laughed as she watched. She was once again reminded of Su Ling's sharp tongue and soft heart. Chapter 54, You will definitely be number 1. In the school's leaders' meeting room. Principal. Zheng looked at the name list drawn up by the various classes and frowned in thought. Instructor Shen, during the combat assessment last time, many outstanding students at the second level of Blood Essence did not participate. Can't you give them a chance? Yanjing said indifferently, if they don't even have the courage to take the combat assessment, then despite being outstanding, they still do not deserve to be nurtured. But Principal Zheng wanted to persuade Yanjing to give those students another chance, but Yanjing interrupted him. All right, Principal Zheng, let's nurture the students on the list. In addition to these students, I've also specially transferred a few geniuses from the Yanjing Elite Training Camp. I believe that with them around, the other students of Chu City High School will also work harder. Yanjing Elite Training Camp. The Dean and Department Director Hong were stunned. Department Director Hong was the first to speak. Instructor, other than the peerless genius, the other outstanding students in Chu City High School are only at Su Ling's level. If we let these students stay with the geniuses of the Yanjing Elite Training Camp, I'm afraid it won't turn out well. That's right, Instructor Shen. I heard that the geniuses in that training camp have all at least reached the level of martial artists. The most outstanding of them has even reached the intermediate level, and their combat strength can be comparable to high-level martial artists. The dean also could not help but say, letting such geniuses come over might very well dampen the enthusiasm of Su Ling and the others. Instructor Shen shook his head. Only by being with outstanding geniuses can you grow faster. If you can't even withstand such a small blow, you're destined to have no potential. All right. Seeing Instructor Shen's firm attitude, Principal Zheng and the dean stopped persuading. For the entire day, all the classes were discussing the focused training class and were not in the mood for class. As for Zhou Hao, he was thinking about the life stone. He could not wait for school to end. When school ended, Zhou Hao immediately changed into his red armor and rushed straight to the eastern defense line of the city. Senior Zhou! Senior Zhou! Walking into the army camp, many battalion commanders and leaders bowed respectfully. Commander Zhao, He Biao, and the other Grand Masters heard the commotion and rushed outside. Ha ha, Senior Zhou, we were waiting for you. Zhen Hong laughed. If not for Zhou Hao last night, none of them would have been able to escape unscathed from the seven-tailed cloud mink's attack. Commander Zhao also smiled and stepped forward. There shouldn't be any accidents tonight. We can focus on finding those shadow insects. Yeah, we didn't find a single shadow insect last night. How unlucky. I hope our luck is better today, He Biao couldn't help but say. When a Grand Master heard this, he could not help but look at Zhou Hao. Senior Zhou, did you gain anything from being the last to leave yesterday? The other Grand Masters glared at this Grand Master. Wasn't he rubbing salt into Zhou Hao's wound? If he had any gains, Senior Zhou would have long told them about it. In fact, this Grandmaster regretted it right after asking. However, Zhou Hao smiled and waved his hand. Tap. 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 One shadow insect after another appeared in the army camp square. There were more than 100 of them. Commander Zhao and the other Grandmasters were instantly stunned. There's so many. Senior Zhou, could it be that you found the shadow insect's nest? He Biao, Zhenhong, and the other Grandmasters stared at Zhou Hao in unison. Zhou Hao nodded and coughed lightly. I was lucky to discover the hidden nest of the shadow insects in Area 275. What? Awesome. How impressive. He Biao and the other Grandmasters raised their thumbs. They all knew what kind of place Area 275 was. In that kind of area, one's sensing ability was basically useless. Also, the strength of any Grandmaster that went there would be severely weakened. Once one was attacked, it was very easy for them to be injured. Therefore, very few Grandmasters dared to go to Area 275, including peak-level Grandmasters. Commander Zhao also sighed in surprise. Senior Zhou's courage and confidence is really admirable. Zhou Hao waved his hand. Unfortunately, those shadow insects escaped too quickly. I couldn't kill all of them. My strength is still not enough. Hearing this, He Biao, Zhenhong, and the others were speechless. The shadow insects were so fast that even if these Grandmasters found them, they could at most kill 2 to 3. Yet, Senior Zhou killed more than 100 and was still disappointed at his own strength. Commander Zhao was also in a mess. If Zhou Hao's strength was lacking, then what about them? Cough cough, Senior Zhou, you've killed more than 100 shadow insects. Looks like you will definitely get first place in this competition. Grandmaster, you said. Zhou Hao hurriedly said humbly, not necessarily. There are quite a few shadow insects. Everyone has a chance. Although Zhou Hao said that, anyone could sense the relaxed tone in his voice. Commander Zhao laughed. Senior Zhou, you have both luck and strength. Otherwise, if it were us, we might not have been able to kill so many even if we found the shadow insect's nest. However, everyone, continue to work hard tonight. No matter what, with one less shadow insect, the threat facing the city will decrease by a notch. Yes, Commander Zhao is right. Agreed. He Biao and the others spoke up. Although they all wanted the life stone very much, they also knew that they were unable to compete with Zhou Hao for it. However, they were rather happy that Zhou Hao was the one to obtain it. After all, Zhou Hao had saved their lives last night. Immediately, the group of Grandmasters entered the wilderness area again. Chapter 55, Geniuses of the Yanjing Training Camp. Unlike last night, Commander Zhao and the others were much more relieved this time. After all the demon kings in the area had fled. The remaining demon generals and insects were of no threat to them. As soon as Zhou Hao entered the wilderness area, he used the same method and began to spend his luck points to find shadow insects. His luck points were indeed very impressive. In less than half an hour, he had found more than 10 shadow insects and killed them all. But as time passed, the number of shadow insects discovered started to decrease. In the past hour or so, even if Zhou Hao consumed 200 or 300 luck points per minute, it would still be very difficult for him to find one. Looks like the shadow insects in the wilderness area outside the city have basically been eradicated. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao ceased consumption of his luck points and stopped searching for shadow insects. Commander Zhao and the other Grandmasters, however, were still searching. Because this was only Zhou Hao's personal guess, he did not say it out loud on the wireless channel. After resting for a while, Zhou Hao simply rushed to the demon general area. After all, he had nothing else to do anyway. Although the luck points provided by the demon generals and insect beasts wasn't much, they could still contribute to the total amount. Area 226. A martial artist team was traveling slowly. However, they did not look like they were on a hunting mission in the wilderness. Instead, they looked like they were traveling and had relaxed expressions. Instructor Shen is too much. He actually transferred us from the elite training camp to a god-forsaken place like Huadong City. It can't be helped. Instructor Shen has a lot of connections in Yanjing. Moreover, the head instructor of the training camp used to be his teacher. Therefore, with just a word from him, we can only obediently come over. I heard that we will be training with some students from Chu City High School this time. Chu City High School? What kind of lousy school is that? They seem to be the weakest among all the high schools in Huadong City. 5 men and women in various armor spoke angrily. They were the outstanding geniuses that Instructor Shen had transferred from the Yanjing training camp this time. All right, cut it out. Since Instructor Shen transferred us here, he must have a hidden reason for it. All of you just have to work hard. It doesn't matter where you train. You have to rely on yourself, a calm-looking young man said slowly. Click. A woman's armor mask opened to reveal her elegant face. Her voice was mocking as she said, Yuan Cheng, you definitely don't have reason to panic. The Yuan family got its wealth from the Underground Alliance Mall, which has a rich background and branches in every city. Of course you won't be lacking any cultivation resources. But we're different. Another young man also opened his mask and said angrily, that's right. After our family learned of this, they thought that we were no longer valued by the training camp. They even started cutting off the supply of resources. Yuan Cheng was speechless. At this moment, a young girl reminded, everyone, this is the wilderness area. I think we should still be careful. The elegant girl curled her lips. What's there to be afraid of? All of us have high-level combat strength and are equipped with excellent armor and saber. We can even deal with demon generals if we encounter one. This is only the edge of the area. What's there to be cautious about? Yuan Cheng couldn't help but say, don't be careless. The elegant girl snorted and was about to continue when the ground suddenly shook. Swoosh. 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 These youths instinctively took out their sabers. Boom. In just a few seconds, a large number of ancient trees broke apart. Red horn iron bulls that were dozens of meters tall rushed out from the depths of the area like they were running for their lives. Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other geniuses were so frightened their faces turned pale. It had to be known that an adult red horn iron bull was a high-level beast warrior. At the current moment, the number of red horn iron bulls in front of them was in the thousands. With such a huge iron bull herd, even a master-level expert would have to flee if they were here. Run. The elegant girl, who had just been feeling relaxed, was the first to turn around and flee. The others weren't slow to react either. They turned around and escaped as fast as they could while sending out an emergency distress signal. However, the red horn iron bulls were too fast. We're done for. When Yuan Cheng saw the large number of iron bulls spreading over from behind, his eyes revealed despair. The others were the same. All of them regretted coming out to hunt and relax tonight. However, the red horn iron bull did not attack them. Instead, they escaped crazily, as if they were being chased by their natural enemies. When Yuan Cheng and the other geniuses saw this, they heaved a sigh of relief and were puzzled. Not good, it's a high-level demon general, the black-scale demon python. As the red horn iron bulls left, a genius's eyes widened as he watched a demon python that was hundreds of meters tall attack from behind. How could this be? High-level demon generals usually stay in the depths of the area and rarely come out. Why would the black-scale demon python come to the edge? The geniuses' hearts trembled, and they were so frightened that their feet couldn't move. It was too easy for a high-level demon general to kill them. If I had known, I wouldn't have come to the Huadong city even if I was beaten to death. Seeing the black scale demon python getting closer and closer, Yanjing smiled bitterly. Rip! A saber beam suddenly appeared in the sky. This saber beam seemed to tear through the darkness. It carried a terrifying sharp aura as it surged out from space in all directions. Bang! The huge black scale demon python's triangular eyes instantly lost their color. Its huge body fell heavily and slipped towards Yanjing and the other geniuses. Yanjing, Yunyan, and the other geniuses were completely stunned. Even after the red armor expert landed beside the black scale demon python, the shocking saber move from before still continued to linger in their minds.